Welcome to REI Unite. I'm Ryan Polakaitis, your host, and I'm here with a very special guest, Eric Moeller. Eric is the founder of Coda Homes, specializing in single home redevelopments in San Diego, California, and also northern New Jersey. Thanks for being on the show, Eric.
For sure. Thank you, Ryan.
How you doing this morning? Good?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm doing good.
Excellent.
Excited. Been trying to do this with you for a while now, so
That's true.
Happy finally getting it off the ground.
Absolutely. Well, we got a lot of good stuff to cover.
Yeah.
Today we're going to go over managing contractors on rehabs, and then the other process as far as selling, and with a focus on staging. So we'll jump right in. One of the biggest challenges, and that I personally find as well, and my other partners, is where do you find the right contractors?
That's the $1,000,000 question. It's just like anything else in real estate. It's a numbers game. You know, you definitely have to talk to as many contractors as you can, get as many different pricing sheets from as many different contractors from local areas as possible. Definitely, the way that I focus on it, the way that I bring my contractors in, so once I find a property, we market across multiple different websites, Craigslist, all those different types of sites, and we have the contractors come to us. Once we start getting different contractors coming in, we have them basically bid against each other, and I try to get anywhere between 3 and 5 quotes per project, and then break it down from there. We have a full system on how we qualify the contractors, how we check out their current and previous jobs, and we put them through the test.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. You're doing strictly online posting and marketing. Do you do anything else? So, for example, one of the popular ways is, hey, go to your local Home Depot early in the morning. Yeah. Those are your guys that are active in the field. Network with them that way. Is that something you do, or you're just strictly make posts on various platforms? I think one of them is called like Smith app or something like that, where you could actually post through your phone app what you're looking to do, and then they'll come and they'll bid just through the phone app. They'll actually place bids. Now, I found that this is it's not entirely accurate, but it's a way to start a possible relationship. Because how are they going to bid on a project really without seeing it in just a couple photos or description? Sure. But do you do, is your focus really just online marketing platforms, or do you actually go out there in the field and, like I said, to people, Lowe's? Right.
Yeah, so our majority marketing is all online. We focus on that. But, of course, when we're at Home Depot, Lowe's, local hardware store, whatever it is, we always have our eye out, just like trying to find a piece of property. As you're driving around, you always have an eye out looking for, the right property or the right contractor.
Right.
So whenever I see a contractor, we add them to the list. We send them out an email if we do have their email, or we have one of our virtual assistants contact the contractor, kind of introduce our company, explain what we're looking for. And then we send out an intro email to the contractors, somewhat of a case study of our previous projects and where the numbers had came in on those properties. And we ask them if they're interested in developing a relationship with us to send in their price sheets. And then from there, we start collecting data on all the local contractors in the area. So that's one big technique that's really helped us. And then the Smith app, I found to be very useful if you're GCing your own projects. So if you're looking for the one-off subs like electrician or a security camera installer, things like that, it's good to put those little small jobs out there on that type of app. That's really more for a networking approach to meet more contractors.
Exactly.
But, I don't think you're gonna get a full GC to come in and bid out a $100,000 renovation on that app.
Right. Now, you made an interesting point. Let me just relay upon that a little bit. You said that whenever you're actively looking for properties, you're also looking for contractors. So do you mean you're always looking, regardless if you have a project ready to go at that given time, you're always actively in the market looking for those contractors in the event that you have another deal next week, next month, whatever it may be?
Right, exactly, yeah. Yeah, so just as much as I'm looking for properties and money, I'm also looking for contractors. There's been a handful of contractors that have come along with me the past few years. And probably I have one GC that's done about 20 of my projects. He's been with us for about 3.5 years. Everybody else has kind of rotated. And what I've noticed is that contractors typically stick around for about 3 to 4 projects, and then they get distracted, and their numbers are fluctuating. Their quality of the job is all over the place.
Right.
So that's what we typically see. And if you're in a volume-based business, if you're doing a lot of renovations, you're always going to need those contractors.
Right.
And they're good to network with other investors. You know, if you qualified good contractors, and you don't have a job to put them on, but you're dealing with another investor that wholesales a lot of properties, you could use that as leverage. You know, pass off their price sheets and their contact information for, you know, potential wholesale that you can potentially purchase.
Right. Excellent points. And actually, just to reinstate one that you mentioned, looking for contractors when you don't have an actual property to work on is closely relates to looking for private money before you have the project. When you have the property and then you're looking for private money, you tend to be, or at least give the appearance that you're desperate, et cetera. So it's good to have those pieces of the puzzle lined up ahead of time.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially if you get a really great contractor that you trust, you like, there's some type of social proof of their past, jobs that they've worked on, and you don't want to lose that contractor, that's going to motivate you to get out there and find some more properties. And the same thing when you find properties and money, it's going to motivate you to get, the right contractors to renovate the property.
Exactly.
Yeah. And what I've found too is, like, if you wait, if you sell me a property, if you wholesale me a property, I typically have 2 weeks to close on it, give or take. To bring in a contractor that you never met before, try to negotiate with them and figure out
tight timelines, right?
Yeah, within 2 weeks, you're going to be rushed, and the quality of management on the construction level is not going to be there.
Absolutely. Now, let me ask you this. You mentioned price sheets. For our listeners who don't know what a price sheet is. I mean, I think I know what you're talking about, but I'll let you elaborate on what a price sheet is.
Right. Yeah, so basically I had a virtual assistant. I hired her for, I think it was 48 hours. It was one job. She had to create one spreadsheet for me. And what she did was went item by item listing every single part of a renovation. So from windows to moldings to sheetrock, framing, roofing, everything, item by item in an Excel spreadsheet. And then what we did was we took that spreadsheet and sent it out to all of our contractors. And we asked them to put their hourly rate, their job-specific rate, and rough estimates on square footage for materials.
Right.
So once we collect all of those spreadsheets from all the different contractors, we can line them up in another spreadsheet and figure out exactly who's the most competitive, who understands their numbers the best. So once you match it up with 5 other contractors in the area, you know that a window should cost you X amount to install. And if someone's undercutting that, that's a red flag. If someone's overpricing it, that's a red flag as well. So
very smart. As a matter of fact, that's something that I've had on the to-do list for a while, was developing pretty much, like you said, we call it a price, something that we refer to. But anyway, long story short, it's basically telling the contractors, hey, look, this is what we're willing to pay for X, for painting, for whatever it may be. It takes a little bit of the back and forth, and it kind of eliminates those that are going to waste your time or they're not going to be on the same page.
Right.
So just if you took all these price sheets, you have a good idea, an average of what it's going to cost to install a window, what it's going to cost to do drywall, etc. And it takes out that whole back and forth where you're saying, listen, if you're qualified, if we seem like we're going to work well together, here's what we're willing to pay. If that works for you, we can take the next steps.
Right.
So having that said, let's just say you got all your price sheets from these contractors. Obviously, it's not going to be based off of just that alone. So how do you really narrow it down to choose which ones you're going to go with?
Sure. So one is the price sheet. Once we get all of the price sheets, we create our master price sheet that determines the averages for material and labor cost in that area. So obviously we match it up with the 3 to 5 best contractors that we like. And then through there, it really comes down to how they're bidding the project out. If someone just says, yeah, that's going to cost $100,000 to renovate that house, I'm not working with them. I want I want to know exactly what their plan is, a step-by-step plan, outlooked for, 6, 8 weeks, whatever the project's going to be. And then references. References are huge. And I know a lot of house flippers skip over this. They ask the contractor for references, but they never really follow up on it. Mm-hmm. I personally go out to the job sites and take a look at their current job sites to see how they run it, how they keep up with the grounds, their level of finish. And then I actually follow up with their past clients. I will physically give them a phone call or a knock on their door and tell them what I'm looking to do and go through their job site.
I will say that's probably one of the first times that I've heard that from anybody, and that little bit of advice to our listeners is extremely valuable. Mm-hmm. Firsthand, again, we went the route of the cheaper contractors, and we still feel the effects. We're talking a year plus. So by you doing that due diligence up front, spending a little extra time will save so many issues down the road. Not all of them, I'm sure, but it will save a lot of issues.
I mean, what you're trying to do is minimize your risk and trying to figure out how to control that risk. You're always going to have issues with rehabs. You're always going to have issues with the contractors or the actual property themselves. So to try to really figure out who the contractor is, their level of finish, how they manage their job sites, how they manage their team. Once you can figure out who they are, that's somebody that you can build with you and develop a routine with them. Every single time you buy a property, they know exactly what you have to put in there, your time frames. They know what to expect to make on the job sites. You just keep rolling them through.
Exactly. It's a well-oiled machine. Mm-hmm. So once you actually hire the contractor, the big question is, how do you manage?
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? Before we jump into that, one other thing on how to qualify a contractor, especially in the state of New Jersey, is once I receive their bid, I ask them to submit their license, of course, and their insurance. So I reach out to their insurance company, find out if they had any fraud in the past, if they've never finished a job, if they, any of their men have, got hurt on a job before. That really tells you, how they manage their company. Right. But also reaching out to the state of New Jersey. So reaching out to the Consumer Affairs Department. They will tell you if there's any lawsuits against that contractor, how long they've been licensed, have they had any accidents on their job sites, things like that. So the state will completely open up. And then if you ever have an issue with a contractor, stealing money from you, not finishing a job, those are the first people you contact, the state of New Jersey. Right. Fill out a complaint form, and they jump on it immediately.
So let's actually kind of dive in a little more into that. So they give you their license and insurance. Is there actually like a phone number or a contact of who you call, or is it a simple Google search? How do you find the people to contact from New Jersey and their insurance? I guess I'm sure the insurance is probably a simple Google search. Yep. What about the state of New Jersey licensing?
Yeah, so the Consumer Affairs Department, the DOC, no, not DOC. I forget exactly. We could put it in the show notes. I'll find the link. But if you basically search the state of New Jersey Consumer Affairs Department, you'll find a direct number for New Jersey licensed contractors doing background searches on them. Excellent.
Okay, right. We'll dig that up and put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's a very important one, and I'm sure I could go ahead and talk for hours about it. But why don't you tell us a little about some important lessons you've learned? Some of the do's, some of the don'ts.
Yeah.
When dealing with contractors and on your rehabs.
Yeah. I think you mentioned it before. Don't go for the cheapest contractor.
Oh boy.
You're gonna pay for it in multiple different ways.
Absolutely. Or sometimes more for lesser quality work.
Yeah. Exactly. So if it's not, them stealing money from you, it's them not showing up. It's them not, finishing through on the project, or their quality work is going to be very low. So I think for flippers that are starting off, they should focus on learning the construction field, first of all, jump into educating themselves on the language of construction. so they can speak to contractors, and then focus on working with general contractors, mid-grade general contractors that have been in the game for quite some time. When I first started, I started working with local contractors that I knew, that I thought I was friends with, and I trusted them. I trusted what they were saying. I wasn't following up on the quality work. I wasn't going to the job site every single day. I didn't have pressure on them. So due to that, they extended the job site an additional, 3-4 weeks. The quality work was absolutely horrible. So one thing I learned through that process is accountability is everything when it comes to managing contractors. You have to set your expectations ahead of time with them, and then do constant follow-up every single day, twice a day if possible.
Right. Right. And I'm sure some of the other rehabbers will say quick to hire and quick to fire, meaning if they are not living up to the agreement, you have to go ahead and nip that in the bud. And if it's not going to go ahead and get resolved quickly, they have to get eliminated ASAP because time is money.
Yeah, so that's such a touchy subject. Especially when you're rehabbing a home, our numbers are projected for a 6-month hold max for these properties. If you have hard money there, it's very costly to delay that project. So to go through the process of firing a contractor, getting a new contractor in there to bid to finish the job,
right,
and go through the permit process and the insurance process to get them in there, you could lose an entire month.
Easy. I've been down that route. Easy a month.
You could lose an entire month. So you have to be very cautious with firing your contractors. If they're stealing from you, if they're not respecting you and they're not respecting your guidelines on how to run a project, you have to get rid of them immediately.
Exactly.
And that's the first sign of seeing that too. Like you can't give multiple different extensions and make it okay for them to give you excuses on these projects. If you see someone stealing, get them out immediately. But if there's a communication issue, which most of the time it is, with scheduling, you want to sit down, figure it out with the contractor, and put a new plan in place prior to firing them, just if it's a communication or a scheduling issue.
Right.
You could lose a lot of money and a lot of time firing contractors.
Absolutely. Well, so you touched on that subject. Let's dive a little more into that. So you have the contractor hired. He's begun work. How do you manage throughout that process while they're working on it, from the start of the project to the end?
Right. So that becomes, all of that takes place prior to the job starting. So the lead up to the project is the most important. Creating your time schedule, your work schedule from the day that they're going to start to the day they're going to finish, and having them outline daily what they're going to be working on and what I'm going to be expecting from that contractor. And then from there, I set up multiple points of accountability for the contractor. I take that schedule, I put it in a Google Calendar that I share with the contractor and make sure that they accept it. It's on their phone. I print out the schedule, put it on the job site. It's everywhere. They know the date that they're supposed to finish. And then from there, moving forward, all you have to do is follow that blueprint.
Right.
And second, you see the contractor going off of that blueprint of your scope of work or your construction job schedule, that's when you have to see red flags. That's when you step in and just call them out. It's just, hey, what about this? I noticed that you were supposed to finish the trim today, and you haven't even started painting yet, or whatever it is. And then you can start feeling what they're giving you, and you have to call them out on their BS. You have to talk very direct to them, and they'll get the job done.
Do you have them give you daily reports by sending you photos and or just a phone call? Hey, this is what was done today, or is it every other day, or is it every couple days? How do you?
Yeah, so luckily I've got to the point where I can hire a full-time project manager. So I have a person that's jumping from job site to job site daily to make sure that the crews are on site, they're following the scope of work, and we figure out or resolve any change orders in the project. So the contractor themselves, they only give me pictures and an update on the project at the end of the phase. So when they're requesting payment for the work that they just finished, I have them send me a walkthrough video, detailed photos, and a full description of what they completed.
Right.
And then what the next step is.
So let me ask you this: as far as like payment schedule is concerned, do you pay anything up front? How do you pay throughout? Just at the how do you? What's your payment schedule like?
No, that's a great question. When I first started the business, I thought that I had to give them a portion prior to them starting the project. I learned that the hard way.
You and I both.
Yeah, exactly. I wrote a contractor that I used on a couple of different job sites that I knew. I went to high school with this person.
Right.
I wrote him a $25,000 check and he disappeared. Haven't seen him since.
Wow.
So from that, what's that?
I was going to say, did he do any work at all? And
No.
how about see, not to deviate too much, but
Sure.
We agree. We don't pay any work for any money for any work that's not performed. However, we may make an exception if some of it's going to material.
Right.
But
which you can purchase yourself.
Right.
You can structure it that way too, and that goes back to your spreadsheets and how you set up the job site. If you need to purchase materials ahead of time, there's no reason to go direct to the contractor. Have the contractor set up the material list through their supplier, through their name, so you're getting their discount, and pay the supplier directly.
Right.
And that's good faith to the contractor that
Sure.
This job site's starting, and that the materials are going to be there when he's good to go.
Right. Okay. So we'll gear back. So okay, your payment schedule. Obviously, not paying anything up front.
Right.
It sounds like unless you're going direct to the distributor. Once they begin the job, how does everything transpire from there?
Yeah. So from day one, again, the scheduling is everything. So from day one, we already know what the phases are going to be. Typically, a phase is anywhere with permitting and inspections, 2 to 4 weeks max. Within each phase. Each job site has anywhere between 2 and 5 phases in each project. So from day one, I expect their crews to be there to the day that we finish, Monday through Friday. And then that's where the accountability kicks in. That's where my project manager now makes a phone call to the contractor once in the AM and once in the PM. Once they get to the job site, once they're finished. Just touch base, make sure they're on the job site. And that happens every single day. And then we do weekly, if not daily, inspections of the project, depending on where we're at in the stage and the type of project that's happening.
Right. So do you typically split up the payments from okay, you did a quarter of the work, we're going to pay a quarter of the work. Now you did half, now we're going to pay half the money.
Yeah. So that's all set up within the scheduling prior to you even purchasing the property. You want all of this negotiated with the contractor. So, for example, first phase construction is typically clean out, demo, and then any emergency repairs like, framing, things like that we find behind the walls.
Right.
That's typically a first phase. And that's easy to measure. You go to the house and you see that's demoed and,
Sure.
we're good to go. Then you release, once I receive the pictures, the videos, and I do the inspection from the contractor, that's when we release the first phase payment. And by the time he gets that payment, he's already started the second phase. So it all comes down to when he finishes, or she finishes the job site, when they get us the pictures, the video, and the description of what they completed. And then once we do the inspection,
Right.
And then 48 hours later, we'll wire it right to their accounts.
Right. What about the finishing touches? It's so interesting because that's one of the most important parts of the rehab. And the way we originally had it scheduled was maybe there was 10% left. And believe it or not, that little 10% sometimes wasn't enough incentive for them to complete the job. So we found out, we have to keep more money owed to them so that they could finish this, because the finishing touches really can mean the difference of your house sitting on the market for months versus selling in a matter of days.
Right. Yeah, so I always say the first phase and the last phase are the most important within a job site. The first phase, when that gets started, you're setting the expectation for that entire job. and that's why that's so important to put all your focus into setting up everything ahead of time. And then when you come to the last phase, the finishing of finishing touches, you have two pieces to leverage with the contractor. One, they're not getting paid for those finishing touches until it's complete. You're holding that back, and that could be a pretty big portion of the job site,
right?
Or the job amount. You got to remember too, most contractors, they don't really make their profits off of these flips until the last two phases, if not the last phase of the job site.
Right.
So that is part leverage. That's the leverage that you're going through, making sure that they're finishing those finishing touches by the time that you set up prior to even starting the project.
Exactly. And that way, by holding back more of the money, because if it's only 10%, they may say, I made most of my profit already.
Right.
Hey, screw it. There's just too much work to be done. Let me move on to the next job.
Right. So, yeah, exactly. And that's the first layer of protection, the first layer of leverage is that last phase payment. You don't release until they're 100% done with that job site. I mean, 100% done. But on top of that, I typically hold back anywhere between 7 and 13% of the job for 7 days after we receive the CO from the city.
Really?
Yeah.
And why is that?
Well, the CO is going to tell you everything, right? So you have the last phase. You walk through, make sure that everything is done to what you want, and expecting that that's 100% turnkey the last day of that phase. Once you receive all of the, those inspection, the pictures, the videos, all of that, and you're okay with it, you can release that last phase. But after that, you still have to go through the CO inspection with the city. Most cities require a CO inspection.
Right.
So they're going to come through, they're going to inspect your water heaters, they're going to inspect your staircase, all the minor details. And typically, I find
they're going to slam you
during those COs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you release any money prior, the job's not done. The job's not done until the city is completely done with the construction side. Until they close out their file, that contractor is reliable to finish that property. So once I receive the CO, it says it right in my contracts. They receive final payment of their holdback 7 days after I get the CO.
Right.
So you have multiple different layers of protection. I have fired people at the last phase and used that money, the last phase amount plus the holdback to finish the job site. And I think we were over a couple of grand here and there, but
right.
We were able to protect that job site.
Right. Very insightful. I think that's definitely helpful. I mean, something that we could even implement in our business as well.
Yeah. I apologize. I was going to say the most important part about this too is you're most likely hiring a GC who's responsible for hiring all the subcontractors for the job site. You don't really know if they're being paid or not. So prior to me even releasing the holdback, my contractor has to send in a lien waiver signed by all of his subcontractors, his suppliers tied to that job site, and him,
right,
saying that everybody was paid in full, that there's no lien attached to the property, and he recognizes that this is the last payment that's owed to him.
Right. Actually, that brings me to my next point as far as, and I don't want to go too much into the legal aspect, but lien waivers is a very good document to protect yourself. Any other documents that are important that you use? I mean, obviously you have your contract with the contractor, but any other documents such as the lien release waiver and other important documents that you've incorporated into your business that...
Yes. Yeah. So I highly recommend hiring a attorney who specializes in construction contract development, or law, I should say. I hired an attorney. I paid him a lot of money. It was probably about $8,000 to develop a contract for me. But it outlines to the T what I expect from my contractors, what they're liable for, what type of insurance they need, all of that. Everything is outlined in the contracts. This big, it's gigantic. So I highly recommend using your contracts that you have your attorneys develop. Don't ever use their contracts. You could just walk into a major hassle with that.
Right.
So that's important, getting your own custom contract. The lien waiver, also have your attorney develop that. Don't accept one from the actual contractor. On top of that, the only other thing that we require outside of the price sheet and their actually scope of work, how they break it down, is we send them a one sheet that explains what we expect from them on their insurance requirements. So we make sure that our contractors have every single insurance policy possible. They're adding our company and they're adding our property to their insurance policy. And then everything else that the state requires. So the car, state required car insurance, builder's risk insurance, things like that.
Right.
For the project.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, and so we'll dive back into just the managing aspect. Let's say you have a contractor on board for a while. He's done a couple projects with you. Mm-hmm. Paperwork aside, does the process change as far as payment schedules or the way it's managed? Maybe you don't have to have your project manager go there daily, maybe every other day or so. Mm-hmm. Does it change, or it just stays consistent no matter how many, one job or 100 jobs?
Yeah, every single job is different. Mm-hmm. Every single contractor, no matter how many times you work with them or how great they seem once you first start, there's always variations within how to manage them and how the job site goes. So you do have a blueprint ahead of time, like I said, to follow, but that's going to change. Every single project I have, I always have issues with something, either managing the contractor or managing the project.
Right.
But I think being a real estate investor, you have to be open for these challenges. You have to get excited about these challenges. That's what's going to make you money. You're never going to have a project that goes smoothly, A to Z. You're going to have challenge after challenge. And if you can get excited about that, knowing that they're coming and knowing that you and your team can, break through those challenges through that wall, right. I think you'll be a lot more successful managing the contractors and the job sites, in whole.
Right. And it's funny to say that. I mean, whether it's rehabs or even wholesaling or rentals for that matter, you're right. Every deal is unique, and every deal is going to have its little set of issues, some more than others. Mm-hmm. And it's important. I mean, I myself have had a lot of challenges past couple months, and it can beat you down. And the funny thing is, it kind of just dawned on me. It was almost like an epiphany. I was just, dropping my brother off from leaving the gym or whatnot, and I'm just sitting there. I said, you know what? These challenges, even though they're driving me nuts, they're actually for the better. They're making me a better investor. They're making me make a company that's that much better and able to provide that much better services. I said, so all of this is pointing out holes in the system, and then you can plug those holes and have a better company, a better person. Yeah. And it actually completely switched my entire mindset.
That's awesome.
To from being like down in the dumps to like, oh my God, what's going on, to like, wow, you know what? I'm grateful. There'd be nothing worse than not knowing what's going on and things are falling apart. Mm-hmm. To actually see where the issues lie and then be able to address those is a very big important thing. And I think that's really what could separate those from who fall out of the business and those who push through. Mm-hmm. So that's,
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, man. Every aspect of my company, like all of those procedures that I've developed in the construction department of my company, they all came from bad failures within my company.
Right.
Like bad decisions I've made, amateur decisions I've made trying to manage a project. It all came from learning lessons.
Absolutely.
I've been in lawsuits with 3 different contractors. I've had 3 different contractors steal a lot of money from me from the actual job site, not finishing it, blah, blah, blah. And that all came from not having that process in place.
Right.
It was just, okay, $100,000, that's great. I can make 50 grand on this house. Get it started. I trust that you're going to finish it. They don't. They steal your money. They steal your time. They take advantage of you. They get other different, other job sites. And, it all comes from learning lessons. So,
absolutely.
Once you go through those lessons, you have to sit back and be like, okay, what the hell happened? How did this contractor steal $42,000 from me on this job site? What did I do wrong? What can I put in place to make sure that this doesn't happen again?
Exactly.
And if you're excited about that, if you get excited to be like, okay, I'm going to lose money, but that's a learning lesson, and that's going to make sure that I make X amount more on my next project, and and then you can scale your company that way.
Exactly.
You're not just going to start immediately and
no. it's
have amazing projects.
of course. I mean, there is a learning curve, and that comes with a price. And it's funny, and not to harp on the flip these house TV shows that are so popular today, but I don't know if you notice this, but everyone, a mailman, everyone wants to get in real estate.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I'm saying, oh my God, a lot of these guys are going to lose their shirt. They're just coming in.
Man.
Yes,
Yeah.
I feel like we're going to be bailing out a lot of them, but that's the nature of the business. But
that was the nature of the business when you and I started. When we first got into this industry, everybody and their mother was flipping houses.
That's right.
And we stuck with it. We went through the hurdles, the ups and downs of these projects, and look what we've developed so far.
Right.
In our careers, and that's because we went through those hiccups and we learned, and we were able to push through that fear and those
Absolutely.
challenges.
Right. It was when short sales were huge, and I mean I recall realtors that were in the business 10 and 20 years having to go ahead and, because they couldn't adopt it, they didn't make sense of the market, going back to other jobs or whatever it may be. And I think you're right. I think we're seeing a little bit of a cycle here, and everyone's getting in it, and then
I don't know. I don't know if you've seen it, but your girl Snooki has a flipping show now.
Oh my God. Well, I don't have a TV. Most people
That's good.
They can't believe I don't have a TV. To be honest, I don't have a TV. I maybe watch a little Netflix here and there with my girlfriend. But and Snook, yes, I actually did see that on Facebook, and I don't know. I tell you.
But I mean, going back to the whole educational part, I mean, when every single time I talk to a new investor, they focus on how to develop a flipping company. They focus on the acquisitions,
right,
the fundraising, and the resale of the project. They completely skip over the construction side. They expect that by hiring a professional
that it's going to get done correctly. Yes.
Yeah, it's going to get done correctly. That's a major part of the business that
Absolutely.
we have to educate ourselves in, and
you can make or get, basically a deal can be making or whatever, broker make whatever, what I'm saying.
Yeah.
With a contractor, I mean, obviously acquisition price is a very important part of it, but likewise, your contractor can kill all the profit in that deal.
Yeah, it's very important, and it's very important to understand their language and understand, the metrics of construction. You don't have to be a master carpenter, but you have to know what, 2x4s cost. You have to know how long it takes to install a tile floor and, things like that. You have to understand that side of the business. So when, you do come across those nasty contractors that are lying to you, you can call them out on their BS.
Exactly. And you get that with just experience or having someone on your team that is experienced.
That, yes, and also doing your education ahead of time. There's so much free information on the internet right now, especially when it comes to construction. You can learn the basic knowledge of construction within a couple of months of just going through the internet. And there's websites like OSHA.gov that have free training. Ashley.gov, I think it is, has free training for construction.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of outlets out there if you search for it.
Right. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, I'll tell you, let's take a little sidestep here because we covered a lot and excellent information regarding managing the contractors. Another important part of this is actually selling the property. Yep. So obviously we want to have a focus on staging, which you're well involved with. But before we do that, why don't we talk a little bit about once the job is done, the contractor's paid. Now it's time for us to get paid. We got to go ahead and sell the house. What are some tactics you use to get the house sold fast?
Sure. Yeah, so for example, I just finished a property in Westwood, Bergen County, New Jersey, and our final date with our contractor was February 15th. He finished on time, finished everything 100% by February 15th. The very following day, I had everybody else lined up. The very following day, I had a cleaning company come in, scrub that house down, make it absolutely perfect. The following day, I always stage my homes. I always bring in a third-party stager who specializes in home staging, not just a local realtor who has, her grandmother's couch in the basement who's going to put it in the corner. Right. That's not staging. I spend a lot of money, typically anywhere between $2,500 and $4,000 per property. They come in, they stage all the major rooms in the house, all the common areas, with the idea that building the dream of of the buyer once they come walking through. They can envision their stuff being in the house. Very, very important doing that. And then the very following day from staging, I bring in a whole photography company who does HD photos, and I typically do a HD walkthrough video with drone footage, which is pretty awesome. But all of that gets done within a week to a week and a half after I finish my job site, after I finish the construction. And then once I get all of that information back from the photographer, everybody else, we typically have the property on the market about 2 weeks after we finish construction.
Right. So what does it cost roughly to clean the house? What does it cost roughly for the photography? And I know you mentioned it's about $2,500 to $4,000 for staging.
Yeah.
So cleaning, what does that usually run you? Obviously, the size of the house depending on the project, but I'm sure you have to budget that in.
Yeah. So I always try to negotiate with my contractors first to see if they, in my clause of the contract, they have to leave the job site broom, swept, clean. But I always try to negotiate with them to have them finish the cleaning for me. If they don't do that, I have a company that's been working with me for about 3 years now. They typically charge me anywhere between $250 and $350, depending on the size of the house, how many bedrooms, how many levels, things like that.
Right.
So that's lined up, and we have that on rotation now with all of our properties. And then the very next day, we bring the staging company in. Like I said, we invest a lot of money in that because that sells the property 100%. You have to build that want in the buyer's mind once they come into the property. So that's the price range for that, $25 to $35, and then the photography, typically anywhere between $500 and $900, depending on the package that you're doing. I always do before and after photos. I hire the same photographer. She stands in the same location when I buy the house and when I go to sell the house. And that's all for marketing purposes. And then we bring in the drone company, and they fly that little thing through the house and up in the air, and it's awesome. Yeah.
Right.
We put a promo video together with the photos and the drone footage, all of that, and then that ties in with the realtor that we're working with to market the property.
Right. So in regards to the stagers, again, you budgeted about $2,500 to $4,000. How do you go about finding those stagers? Like you said, you don't want to bring in your friend's grandmother, whatever, throw a couch in the corner.
Yeah.
How do you find the right stager?
Well, it's just like finding the right contractor. In my mind, all those three other parties, the cleaning company, the stager, and the photographer, those are contractors to the job site. So it's the same process, the same type of marketing. I've met my staging company that I've been using for a while now through through John Steingraber's event in Garwood, New Jersey.
Right. And JRESN, I believe.
Yes. Yeah. So I highly recommend that. That's another great place to meet contractors that are familiar with the investor business as well as at local real estate events.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's the process. The same process of putting it out there on the internet and then networking as much as possible.
So let's just say you came across a new stager. I know you're getting established in San Diego. So, yep. I mean, is it, hey, show me your portfolio? I mean, is there any red flags? I mean, anyone could to steal some pictures on the internet and say, hey, this is what we've done.
Yeah, exactly.
So how any red flags when screening these stagers?
Yeah, so the most staging companies that I've used in the past are actual companies. They're not just individual who has some furniture, like I said, who throws it in there. The staging companies I've worked with, they have warehouses full of staging furniture. So if they state that they have that, ask them to bring you to their location so you can see the different types of furniture that they use to stage. The staging company I use now has 4 different types of furniture that they rotate through properties depending on the area and the size of the home.
Right.
So she brought me down, gave me a tour of her factory, which was, awesome. And then price sheets. Staging companies should have price sheets, saying, we're going to put X amount of furniture in this room. It should cost this much, blah, blah, blah. If you want to add extra, pictures to the wall, this is the price for that all the way down. So I'm a data guy. I like to collect as much data as possible. And I'm not afraid to ask for information from these contractors. So if someone's giving me the yeah, saying like, yeah, I'll send
Red
it to
flag.
you. Yeah, that's a red flag. I hate that. As soon as I hear yeah from a contractor,
Bye.
yeah, bye. But yeah, man, it's just like anything else. You got to do your homework. You got to collect the information.
Sure.
You know?
Excellent.
You can't rely on their word. You have to see hard data.
Right. So, I mean, that's some great information. Just to, I guess, end off, what do you typically budget in for total wise? Because I know you said about 2,500 to 4,000 for staging, about could be up to 900 for photography, and about 350 for cleaning. So, really, roughly, what's your rule of thumb to say, okay, to get this thing sold once the contractor's done, I'm buffering in X, or is it a percentage of the whole deal, or
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I don't know, man. We've gotten to the point so far that everything just goes through our main spreadsheet that we have. I've been developing a spreadsheet for the last 6 years now, so everything's already predetermined in there. And my closing costs go anywhere between $10,000 and $25,000, depending on where we're what type of property we're selling.
Right.
But yeah, outside of that, I mean, your biggest expense is going into marketing. Outside of the cleaning, everything else that we spoke about, your bigger budget is into marketing and how you're going to push this property out to the masses. So yeah, I don't know if I have a exact percentage. I'm a how guy. I break it down per line item, and it changes on every single property.
Right. Eric, I really appreciate you being on. A lot of great information in there, even some stuff that we're going to implement in our business.
Good.
For our listeners that want to reach out to you, either to network with you, to invest with your company, why don't you tell us a little bit about anything that is going on with you, how they can get in touch with you,
Sure.
And anything you want to share.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate that. So yeah, like I said, my company is Coda Homes. You can check out my portfolio at codahomes.com. KODA homes.com. But yeah, I mean, right now we're a New Jersey-based business, but in May we're actually expanding to San Diego, and we're getting into higher-end renovations in San Diego County, some rentals, some Airbnb investments, things like that. But yeah, I mean, everyone can check me out at my website. If your listeners email me, we're actually developing a ebook, a resource guide for house flippers. So if your listeners email me with put in the title the name of the podcast, we'll forward them the ebook.
Great. And what email would you like them to use, or is it right on this?
No, they could either go to the website and put their data into the website, or email me directly at eric@codahomes.com.
Excellent. Eric, once again, thanks a lot, and I look forward to having you on again.
For sure, man. Had fun. Thank you.
Take care.